Hello, and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, a casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike.
And we're back for another episode to recap some of the latest run of Goose shows from Burlington to Madison to Sterling Heights and Chicago. I'm just getting back from that crazy run in Louisville, and Mike's about to go on that run in Alpharetta and Charlotte. So we wanted to recap that together, and we'll be releasing that episode really, really soon for y'all. But we got to knock out this first leg first. And before we start geeking out about all of that, let's just knock out some housekeeping first. As always, first off, if you want to keep up with the show and Goose news and highlights, give us a follow at Slow Ready Pod. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok. We try the Reddit thing every once in a while. We're just trying to swim in all the social medias. And if you have any thoughts on a show or any thoughts on an episode, feel free to email us slowreadypod@gmail.com. We've gotten some awesome listener emails over the last few months. I think at some point it might be fun to just do a mailbag or something, Mike. Honestly, we've gotten some really funny and great emails over the last few months.
For sure. Yeah, I'm into it. We need to definitely do that soon.
Yeah, a lot of inside joke stuff comes up on those emails, so it'd be kind of fun. And then the second thing, as always, it's time to dive into the latest Goose news and notes in our first segment, Hot Tea. So the biggie, since last time we recorded, Viva El Gonzo lineup was announced for 2026. Goose is obviously playing all three nights as expected, but they're going to be accompanied by My Morning Jacket, Corey Wong, Jim James also doing a solo acoustic set, LP Giobbi, Tractor Beam, Pigeons playing ping pong, California Honey Drops, a couple of sets by Dogs in a Pile and Eggy, Kitchen Dwellers, Mahali's doing a tribute to Nirvana, Le Special, Michaela Davis, that'll be awesome. Obviously, DJ Mar Menthols is back. El Gonzo Collective, Laboa, and Shamans have been announced so far, and they said more artists to be announced, which is just wild when the lineup's already that great. Mike, I know you still haven't gotten your trip confirmed. Are you booking it immediately now after this episode?
Me and my girlfriend were actually just looking at packages earlier today, just making sure everything's still up, and it is. But yeah, I mean, to your point, this lineup is so crazy. I mean, the FOMO would be incredible. We're definitely planning on being there. Just the timing of when we figure out for sure that we're going to be there is TBD. But I love specifically seeing all the different relationships that Goose has fostered in the music world. I mean, all these bands have done stuff with them before, except for some of these unknowns. And so I just think it's really cool that they're popping up, and we're going to have a lot of opportunities for some excellent collabs, you would have to imagine, just because there's so much familiarity with so many of these artists.
Yeah, it's almost building on this past year, which is already fantastic. And a lot of these artists are coming back, and they're more comfortable hanging around with Goose and doing guest spots and all that. That'll be really, really sweet. So let's just start the campaign to peer pressure Mike into buying his package ASAP to get him to Gonzo.
It's going to happen. It's just the timing thing.
I'm just giving you shit, buddy. We love you. And then the other thing I just wanted to note, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know this, but I got to say it because we got so many emails and messages about the boards not coming up for a while. All the boards from the past few shows and from the one-off shows in the summer have been uploaded now for the most part. I think there's one or two that haven't, that are just from festivals or something that maybe they don't have the rights to upload or something like that. But everything's been uploaded, and we are all set. And we even got a treat, like the acoustic set from Viva El Gonzo was uploaded recently. So anyway, it's worth checking out if you haven't seen the boards up yet. You can go back and listen on Bandcamp and Nugs. And that's it for the news and notes. That's all I got, Mike. You got anything else? Because otherwise, let's just get into these shows.
No, I'm ready to get into it. We got a good batch of shows to discuss.
Yeah, and we're going to take it all the way back to September 14th to the Waterfront Park in Burlington, Vermont to kick off our flow down. And you want to read off this set for us, Mike? Because this was a Cotter hometown special, and they didn't start slow.
They definitely did not. We've got My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media kicking things off, very Cotter-centric this set. And we've got then A Western Sun, Rockdale, Atlas Dogs, Rockdale again, that sandwich was absolutely incredible. Atlas, Draconian Meter Maid, and Flow Down. And then set two's got Arrow and Travelers on its own. Thatch with an interesting interlude of This Old Sea, and then back to Thatch for another sandwich. And then Subway over here, Sandwich City, Tumble, Shamalama, Ding Dong, Tumble in the encore. So 3 different sandwiches in this set. Really, really creative. I don't know where you want to start because it's all pretty great.
Yeah, it was a freaking deli over here in Burlington, like sandwiches all over the place. I just wanted to say first off, I thought it was just really cool to see the band lean into this being Cotter's hometown show, like letting him greet the crowd to start the show, introduce the guests and everything. You could just tell how much it meant to Cotter, and it probably annoys my wife at this point because I bring it up all the time. Like when we're in the car talking about shows and stuff, I'm just like, it must be so surreal for Cotter still. Like last March or whatever, he's playing just like exclusively like smaller gigs, and now he's playing for a quote unquote smaller Goose crowd in his hometown in like a pretty sizable venue. Just must be absolutely surreal, and this show is kind of a tribute to how much we love Cotter. I feel like at the end of the day. So, where do you want to start with highlights, man? I'm curious about your set one highlights here.
I mean, it starts off with a highlight for me. I mean, my mind just continues to shine with its sparkly, newer intro. And after listening to it a few times, I love this particular version. At the end, Cotter and Trevor kind of sync up in lockstep on the groove, and Trevor's kind of accentuating Cotter's kicks with some slaps of his own. That was really, really awesome. The chemistry in this band just keeps getting better and better and better. And yeah, I mean, it's hard not to go anywhere without talking about this tremendous Rockdale. I think it's maybe as interesting as I've heard Rockdale in quite a little bit here. Got some really awesome psych movement before kind of building into a dark rock that brings February tour to mind. So, I mean, it starts off
Oh
just
yeah,
so strong.
yeah, no kidding. And in between that, you've got a western sun with like the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen photos of in my life.
Yes.
Like it beat out the gorge sunset somehow over in
Yeah.
Burlington on the waterfront, and that transition into Rockdale from Western Sun was like super slick. And I gotta agree with you though, that Rockdale sandwich is the highlight of this set one for me for sure. I mean, you look at the run times before you listen to the show, or I was kind of listening live to the Mixler at the time, and don't let the runtime fool y'all. It covered so much ground on this jam. It's just kind of insane. And the early part of the jam almost reminds me of like Explosions in the Sky, like swirling, delay heavy, like vibes all around to it. And then Rick and Cotter kind of take over for a little more sinister twist to the jam, but it's not quite dark enough to call it like a dark jam. Like, what do you call it? Like dark tangential or something? Like, but for most of that part of it, at least, it's kind of like dark tinged, and it absolutely hits this like glorious dark peak by the end of it that did bring it back to February, to your earlier point. And then it kind of breaks down into near silence and somehow transitions into another slick transition into Atlas Dogs. And I just thought that was absolutely surreal. Like you could cover that much ground in what is it, 14, 16 minutes, whatever it is. They're just so good at that with Rockdale.
Yeah, 100%. And then that smooth transition to Atlas Dogs takes that song into a different territory where it goes kind of brooding, electronica, goons adjacent before flawlessly sliding back into Rockdale to finish the Sammy. And I mean, it just keeps going because then you obviously have a special Atlas with Kat Wright and her trio on board. So, I mean, the set one really, I could talk about literally every song in the set one, and we'll probably end
Yeah.
up doing that with a bunch of these shows.
Well, I mean, they're on quite the run right now. We'll just knock that out early here. Say it's reminding me a lot of February in the sense that they're in a groove, and like even if on these shorter jams, the improv is just locked in my opinion. But yeah, got to shout out the Goons Dogs. Anytime you get a jammed out Atlas Dogs, it's a treat. But like they just tapped into the Goons from the jump, and I thought it was really really fun. It almost felt like, what's that song that you hear in the stadiums, like Zombie Nation or whatever, the
Yeah,
that
yeah.
song. It was like I was kind of feeling that towards the end of it.
That's a good call.
That transition back to Rockdale was kind of fun, but a little stumble there, in my opinion. But it was all right. And then you mentioned the Atlas, man. that was pretty sweet. It was really cool to see everyone there up on stage enjoying themselves. Like maybe I'll take it back a step. Cotter introduced his friends, his local friends, Kat Wright, Bob Wagner, and Josh Weinstein up on stage, and they all kind of did these great harmonies on Atlas. And Kat Wright took some verses on her own, and then Bob Wagner and Rick were trading off kind of guitar licks in the solo a little bit, and Josh was doing his thing on stage. And then when they released the video a few days after the show, it was really fun to watch back and see just how much fun they were all having. It was just like a group of friends hanging out in the living room vibes, like jamming out kind of thing. So it was a fun watch, and I thought Atlas was a great place for them to all kind of do this together at a show.
Yeah, especially since I wasn't very familiar with their work. I got to admit, I started diving into Cat Wright and that trio in particular, and seeing as how they actually opened for Schofield and everything, just, chef's kiss. I mean, the set list creativity and construction lately, to your point, I mean, they're just absolutely on fire. And I think if anything, the Draconian was maybe the only like kind of just it was fine, but it wasn't anything like crazy about this set one. But again, to your earlier point, so happy to see Cotter featured up front and center at his hometown show. And I don't really have a ton to say about it, but I think the Flowdown intro was also interesting. Nothing like earth shattering, but a different entry point for sure.
Yeah, it was different, and it was a flozer, so we got to shout it out every time.
Yes, every time. Well, I got to let you have that line though every time.
Flozer. Not my favorite thing in the world, I won't lie, but it's fun to say that, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
But that was the shortest version of Draconian ever. That was my only note, was like, is Mike's heart broken? 4 minutes of Draconian.
A little bit. Yeah, because that's like my mid-jam special. I mean, you can just count on it to be like, well, that's going to be the best 12-minute jam I hear tonight. And that's just been its role since I've known it for most of the time. And I'm usually expecting it to do something really cool and interesting with that mid-jam runtime. But I really hard to find qualms with this show. It's just really, really solid.
That's going to be a theme throughout this tour, I feel like, because spoiler alert, next episode is going to sound a lot like this too, I feel like. But anyway, anything else on set one before we get into set two here?
No, I'm good on set one. Pretty much every song's a highlight. So great show, obviously.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to do that for a lot of these shows, honestly.
For sure.
So set two opens up with that arrow. I love me a set two opening arrow. I think it's a great call every time. And this one kind of had a jam that hit a really mid-length extended peak, like we've seen so often since Goosemas. Like everyone talks about the Goosemas Hunger Site. It's kind of had not quite those vibes, but it was kind of a slow build like that. It hit that peak, then took things a notch down almost to this really cool like industrial sound where the entire band was in a mind meld for a few minutes there, with all types of like call and response happening before another slick transition into Travelers, which was a big surprise. But anyway, what'd you think about this era before we start moving on into all this madness?
Yeah, I don't have a ton on the arrow. I mean, it's very good. It starts things off, and it's a good way to kick off set two always. But it's just kind of straightforward, nice, high energy bliss. It doesn't reach the same heights as some of the best of 2025 for me, but it's very good. And that's really kind of all I had to say about it.
Yeah, that's completely fair. It's kind of tough with Arrow because it's like 11, 12 minutes of it are basically locked into being the song and like the early part of the jam, the jumping off point into the jam. So you really only have a few minutes to play with when it's a jam that's like 17 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, unless they have an extended runtime on it. But I thought it was a fun way to start and high energy and to get things going for like the madness that would ensue later. But yeah, Travelers, man. The first standalone version of Travelers since June 30th, 2023. We had been wondering if this was going to happen since Autumn Crossing was released, right? And
100%.
Big surprise transition into Thatch, your song, man. Anyway, what you think about Travelers, and then we can get into your Thatch, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wanted to call out the way it melts from the end of that industrial part of Arrow into Travelers was just so perfect, and the transition game has just been so solid lately. And I mean, Travelers is, if we're just looking at songs in the catalog, it's my second favorite song in the catalog. So I'm happy to see them mix it up in any way, always. So I'm always just a fan of the variety. And so seeing it sans Elmig, I think it's great. It's interesting set listing. I just want to be kept guessing at the end of the day. And there's some solid, sort of like contemplative, Muddy Waters, Moody Psych, with some interesting runs from Rick in there that I think they handled at least a little bit differently than they did when they do it as a package deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think people have been calling for this just because it adds more to the surprise factor of a show, like not knowing what you're going to get after Travelers every time. I think it makes things a lot more interesting now for the rest of this year and early next year for sure if they continue this trend. Like, I'm curious to see how long they toy around with this or if it's just a one-off.
They definitely have been making interesting choices with the set list here, and it definitely is calling back to mind February. And you wonder if like maybe some of that creativity with the set listing gets stifled a little bit just from the compressed nature of these massive June runs that they've done the last couple of years, where they're just doing so many shows every week. I wonder if a little bit of that is kind of impossible to maintain as they're going through those just kind of more draining runs. But it definitely seems like there's something about fall and winter here lately where they're just more likely to take chances with the set list.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely, a big fan of it, and I hope it continues, man, because it's wild to not be able to predict this at all. My fantasy goose is always in shambles, but it's even more in shambles trying to guess what's going to happen.
For sure.
But another slick transition into Travelers and then another transition into Thatch. And I really like the feel of this jam, but I want to hear what you think because this is obviously your favorite tune. So I always want to give you the platform first.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this show actually had a lot of psychedelic rock feel in a few of the jams. It kept popping back up for me, anyways. What I found most interesting about this Thatch, and it's very solid, although I mean, it's not like at the heights of like the Ben Thatch or anything like that. But he had just this absolutely piercing tone throughout the jam that was just incredibly unique. And I don't know necessarily like what he was switching around, knob wise or effect wise, but I'd like to get more of that tone because it added an interesting texture that played with the band in a really interesting way. And I think it could fit in a lot of different jam types.
Yeah, it was like the lightning rod and an electric peak. Like it was like it's like
Yeah.
ride the lightning madness there.
Yeah.
That was a really, really wild build to that peak too, because I feel like the early part of the jam was like really open and spacey and a lot of room for like Peter to mess with all kinds of soundscapes and texture as Trevor and Rick like were slowly kind of filling the space, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, we're like burning down the venue. How the hell did we get here?
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really fun, and I listened back a few times and I still had the same questions in mind. So clearly I'm just too into it and like not paying attention enough. But I was just kind of like cool and spacey. All of a sudden, lightning storm.
He just works so patiently in the background sometimes, Rick, like where you're just like the band has so much going on, but just he's just digging back there, and then like he's been plotting all along, and then he just unleashes fury, and you're just like, he snuck up on me again, that guy.
Yeah, I know. I get too sucked in. Like it's not good podcasting because I can't break it down sometimes.
We got time before Jam of the Year.
Oh yeah. And I really like this will be a theme of a lot of my notes. I noted it quite a bit. They've been doing like the post peak atmospheric space as a transition point, and that was kind of the first one I wanted to talk about from this run, going into this old sea. And it's just kind of surprising sandwich, right? Like two completely different ends of the spectrum. And the more interesting part of it for me really was this old sea is such an emotional tune. It obviously starts off in a pretty soulful space, emotional soloing, and then it's also almost felt like a quick key flip back to the ripping peak of Thatch by the end of that jam. It almost felt like a continuation to me, and they covered a lot of ground within that 10-minute runtime, and it just kind of, once again, almost always blows me away when this old sea can go from I'm crying on the floor of the venue to like I'm dancing in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I'm smiling ear to ear because as you said that, I mean, it just mirrors what I wrote down as well. Because I think, like, next to the Rockdale sandwich, the most thrilling part of this show to me by far was listening to how they take this old C and work their way back into Thatch. And it was just so cool because it was so efficient when I listened back to it, how they just coolly introduce some Thatch themes one at a time until before you know it, the entire jam and atmosphere is like, okay, we're like 70% back to Thatch now before they just kind of drop the hammer. But it was just so efficient how fast they got back into it. And it's just like, these two musical worlds are stretched by a very long bridge, but you guys just shortened the hell out of that. So just so impressive.
It is so impressive, and like I can't fathom like the level of foresight or whatever it takes when you're in an early part of a jam to be like, all right, we're gonna introduce this, and I know that X person will latch onto that, and it'll slowly build to this. Like it just seems absolutely wild to me. And when they got back into that Thatch, it was a really well deserved crowd roar. I was kind of grinning when I heard that on the tape. Like the
Yeah,
crowd went nuts for that.
as well they should have.
Oh yeah, and that's just a peak way to end a set too, right? Like, can you beat a Thatch closer, Thatch encore? Like, I love that. It's such a high energy tune, and that outro is just a great way to end a set.
Well, and kind of genius too to like include your cooldown for set two in the middle of a sandwich. Like it's all
Yeah.
kind of wound up inside like sushi or something. But like it was just really, really I'm like, this is thoughtful planning here, to your point. I mean, this just really works.
It was terrific, and it was not the end of the sandwiches either, right? Because we had this encore, get a tumble into Shamalama Ding Dong back into tumble, and this has got to be the most crowd pleasing encore of all time, right?
I mean, it's got to be up there. But I just know that you and me were texting almost instantaneously that we had more intense Blade nightclub goons from back at MSG. I mean, just the back half of this tumble was just that exact same world, and it's just industrial electronic awesomeness.
Yeah. You get kind of like the great tune, sing along, and tumble. Get the arguably most coveted cover by a lot of fans in Shamalama Ding Dong. Then you get back into like the new trendy Goons core, let's dance our ways out of the venue kind of thing, and get an absolutely terrific kind of bundle of like the best of what the fans want all in one little package for the encore here before you leave. I just think the creative set listing there is really, really fun and so appreciated.
Yeah, I mean that encore is joyous. That's the one way I would describe it. I mean, if you're not having fun during that sandwich, then there's something wrong with you, and this might not be the right band for you.
Yeah, it's not about like the creative or the creativity of the improv or whatever. It's just like cool set listing, and like you're giving the
Yeah,
fans like their favorite parts of like what they can expect when they hear a song or a Goose Show in
for sure.
2025.
Absolutely right.
But yeah, that covers Burlington, right? Anything else you got on this show before we move on?
No, great show though. If you haven't listened yet, get on it.
Absolutely terrific. And then we move on to the Kohl Center in Madison, Wisconsin, a show 3 days later on September 17th, 2025. And they were co-headlining with Mount Joy, but they opened the show. So it was just a one set deal, and then they went and guested with Mount Joy later. So their set was Animal, Royal, Your Direction, then got a mid-set Arcadia, and then a Creatures into Slow Ready, and closed with Give It Time. And then at the end of Mount Joy's set in the encore, they all hopped on stage and played Ocean Man, a Ween cover, then Astrovan, a Mount Joy song, and then What's Up, obviously the Four Non Blondes banger. So where do we want to start with this? I don't think there's a ton of highlights here, unfortunately. It was just kind of like a good festival show with some cool guest spots with Mount Joy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, as I've said to you, I'm not really a big fan of these co-headlining gigs because I just feel like it kind of sells both artists short. I like Mount Joy when I'm in the mood to go see a concert with lots of good soulful sing-alongs, and I like Goose. Obviously, they're my favorite band for a completely different set of reasons. But to get both bands doing like half of a set list at best is not really my thing. all that being said, I thought the Arcadia was very solid. I like the animal as well, but mostly just want to talk about the dark industrial crunch in this Creatures. It was super intense, dense, fully embracing. I think I said to you like a Depeche Mode. And you threw out Rob Zombie, which I think is also accurate. And I think I came back with Prodigy because it's just like dark electronic industrial edge, and it was just, I don't know, exhilarating in its short burst. And this is going to sound really, really wild, but even though it is shorter in length, this might be like my favorite style of Goonts I've heard yet, even though not as big of a fan of the concert as a whole. If we're just taking isolated Goonts out of things, this is the bee's knees.
It's one hell of a peak, but I want to shout out that I completely agree with you on your point about the co-headlining shows, and I'm just realizing that we're wearing literally matching shirts right now, so the mind meld is like continuing in an embarrassing fashion. But anyway,
I didn't even see that.
I just noticed it. I was like, oh my god.
Oh man.
But yeah, the Goonts is not something that necessarily requires like a crazy runtime or whatever. It's all about like how you can hit like the best dance peak, for me at least. It's just like a fun part of the show. It's not like meant to be groundbreaking or anything by any means, in my opinion. It's just fun. But yeah, I think that Creatures is the big highlight of the night. I do want to shout out that Arcadia a little bit because it got a little more runtime than you'd expect from a gig like this. Like normally you'd expect like 8 to 9 minutes. This one got 14. So they got a little more time to like gradually build to that ripping festival style outro, give it a little curveball. And I don't say festival outro is like a negative. I love that sound. Like I'll always enjoy a festival Arcadia. Shout out Peach Fest. Like I listen to that all the time. But yeah, just a little curveball there to get some great shreddy Rick moments thrown in throughout. And then Creatures, yeah, 15-minute runtime. They got a hell of a Goonts. I told you, I think, or maybe it was somebody else, but I told you that this could be on like the Matrix Reloaded soundtrack. I'm gonna like tell my grandkids that this is the band that wrote the whole Matrix soundtrack and call it a day.
It fits.
Yeah, it's a great time. And then the rest of the set's just kind of like slow, ready, give it time, great vibes, and sing along. And then you're on to the guest spots with Mountjoy. You have a chance to check these out at all, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the whole show live. I mean, it was cool, the novelty of seeing them all do Ocean Man, just because, you got to be a little deeper in the world to even know, what that song is. I've seen Rick on Astrovan before in Mexico, so that was kind of like, I guess the novelty's worn off there. And what's up? Like, yeah, it's cool, but like, if again coming back to my original point, I'd rather hear just Goose sing it because I've heard Goose sing it, and that's my preference.
I don't disagree. Like I like Mountjoy. I like Goose. For whatever reason, I don't like when they all sing together. I don't think the voices meld great. It just sounds like I don't know. It sounds like a choir or something singing. Like I don't even know how to describe it.
That's legit.
Like a local production.
Yeah, that's legit.
It's just a sing along. Like it's supposed to be fun. It wasn't meant to sound like the best thing ever or anything. But yeah, I just like their specific flavors on their own, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally is.
It looked like a great time. The crowd was into it, so I'm here for it. But let's just have our own shows and maybe do like back-to-back nights in the same city, so you can do like a quick crossover, but you both get full sets.
Yeah, there you go. Or just do like a 4-hour show so that you don't shortchange either one.
Yeah, I mean that's a novel concept.
I mean, you've done it at MSG, so I mean, just give us like 4 or 5 hours, and then we can fit 2 concerts in one. I'm okay with that as long as everyone gets the same amount of time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was like the last of the shorter festival style sets that we have to talk about for a while at least, because we're moving on to September 19th in Sterling Heights, Michigan, at the Michigan Lottery Amphitheater at Freedom Hill. Do you want to read this set off, Mike?
Sure. We've got Elizabeth starting things off. We got a Butter Rum, Silver Rising, Masquerade cover, California Magic, Turbulence in the Night Rays, Into the Mist, Salt, Make the Move for the First Time in Forever, Salt again, Big Modern, Wisteria Lane starting off set 2, Echo of a Rose into Electric Avenue, Into the Mist, You Spin Me Round, closing down set 2, and a Rockdale encore. Again, we might just have to go song by song, dude, because it's like lots of highlights.
I think so. I've got a lot of notes on these next two shows. I don't think necessarily every song, but it's quite a few of them. So we can definitely just run through it because we got time.
Okay.
So what you think? A big bust out of Elizabeth and Butter Rum for the first time in a minute. Obviously, the rotation had kind of tightened up for that summer tour accompanying EMG a little bit. But this was the first Elizabeth since Toronto in February, dude. Like, that's a long time
Unreal.
for Elizabeth. And then
Way too long.
Butter Rum, too. First time since Gonzo. First time since Bada Bing Butter Rum. In a while.
And I miss Butter Rum Jams because you and me think that they're super underrated pretty much every time. So I'll just start here with the first two. Elizabeth, always welcome as an opener. This one in particular has no quit. Rick just keeps pushing the tempo along with Cotter. Pretty much an ideal start here. And Butter Rum just keeps that energy high. This one hits a very nice pocket late. I really, really thought this one was going to blast off, but I think that about most Butter Rums as I look back. But like all the rest of the Butter Rums that I believed in way too soon, they, ripcord it, and it's disappointing. But, one of these days we're going to see a 22-minute Butter Rum, and it's going to punch everyone in the face, and they're going to have to stop slandering it because the mid-tempo or the mid-length jams that they have on these things are usually pretty stout.
I think you're like underselling this Butter Rum, honestly. Like, I think it's up there as one of the best ones they ever played. Like, even with the shorter runtime, I love that like beautiful circling build that they were doing that just like exploded to the back half of the song. And honestly, you could have like told someone who jumped in middle of the jam, like, this is a pancakes jam, and like they might have believed you. It just felt
Yeah.
like one of those kind of great improv sections. And then, of course, like you said, kind of gets ripcorded back into the Butter Rum outro. But I feel like, I don't know, 3 of the last 4, 3 of the last 5 or whatever have been really, really sick, short bursts of improv, and then just kind of takes it back into the outro. And like, I feel like it's earned a little runtime if they're feeling it.
Bro, I mean, I may be very biased in this regard, but I feel like it's actually like 90% of Butter Rums. Like, I mean, I was listening to Charlotte Butter Rum from last summer the other day, and it's just like, are all of these just 14-minute bangers that get, unfortunately just cut down too soon? Because that's what it feels like. It just feels like the vast majority are going somewhere, and then they're not.
Yeah, it happens though. One day
One
we're
of these
gonna get the
days.
38-minute Butter Rum. It's gonna be the what city would it be? I don't know. Let's say San
Miami.
Francisco Butter Rum next year.
Okay.
So then the next little run was Silver Rising, Mascanada, California Magic. You want to talk about those at all?
I can do it quickly. Silver Rising
Yeah.
was standard fare, but no less impressive as always. Masquerade went really dark, even compared to some previous versions that leaned that way. Very, very dark, that one. Interesting. And then California Magic brought some quick levity and balance.
Yeah, I completely agree. I loved the little Mascanada jam. It was a little short, but it was like they covered quite a bit of ground, in my opinion, for the runtime it had. And then, yeah, it got a little dark there. It was kind of fun. And California Magic kind of was a slow pickup back into an excellent version of Turbulence in the Night Rays, right?
I mean, it's shining post album here, but I mean, that song to me is always just a totally cathartic experience, and here it was as well. It seems like somehow they're putting like a little extra into the outro. I mean, the outro has always been like one of the biggest highlights in Goose's catalog to me, but it feels like that new album Sheen or whatever is just like really shining right now because it just feels like they're approaching it with a lot of like tender care, and it's paying off.
Yeah, this is the first version they played since the album release, right? So I think it was since Colorado. So early
Yeah,
June, man. Like, it's kind of wild. Like, a lot of these songs have just been kind of buried for a
yeah,
while. And
true.
um that was really my only note on it too, was that outro was a notch above what we have usually expected to get on Turbulence, which is amazingness in the first place. And I think that they were just in the zone, and it was just a great, huge lift of energy midway in the set after kind of a dark section, and then California Magic's just like a vibe, and that was like picking things back up into like, all right, we're gonna dance the rest of the night.
Yeah, and then you've got this Mist was great, although very short. But it would be found safe later. Spoiler alert. But then I really want to hear your thoughts on the. I kind of went ahead of myself there, but your thoughts on this Salt Make the Move Salt, because this is crazy stuff here.
Yeah, the Into the Mist was cool, and like it's always welcome in a set. It was really just there for the madness we're going to see in set 2, in my opinion. But
yeah,
just a little tease into what we were going to get later. And then this salt sandwich, yeah, a really fun way to end the first set. Like, I never knew that salt would work so well as a logins vehicle, and it got a really nice crowd pop once everyone realized it was Make the Move. The first time it had been played in 100 shows.
Yeah,
it's kind of nuts. Since the Fox last year, really cool transition there. It was slick, and then they called like the dark section of the jam part of Salt, but it felt like it was part of Make the Move to me when I listened back. It was one of those things where it was just like arbitrary, I guess. But that dark section, which is the second half of Salt, if you're listening to the boards, that was just unreal. Like it was just like all of a sudden we're like in hell, like hail Satan or whatever, and then back into Salt.
it was crazy, man. The back half of the Salts especially stands out to me for the insistent pace of Peter's playing and the unique droning tone from Rick that he then transitions throughout time into these swirling sounds that almost resembles record scratching. That thing, to your point, it closes with a fury. And this whole Salt Make the Move Salt sandwich to close down set 1 was one of the more interesting ways to close a set 1 that I can remember in recent memory. But I've gone back to this quite a few times. It's really fun.
Salt is just such a banger, like anywhere in a set. Like, I've seen people already complaining that it's played a lot or whatever since it kind of came back after the long hiatus after the debut at the Cap or whatever, and I'm here for it, man. Play Salt whenever y'all want. It's fantastic.
Definitely.
But they don't slow down there, right? Because they open up set 2 with arguably the best version of Big Modern we've ever gotten, which we say pretty much 78% of the time a Big Modern is debuted at a show. It's hard to not be hasty with it, though, right? But this was quite a unique version, in my opinion, and I'm rooting for you to get Big Modern this weekend. So let me hear your thoughts on this Big Modern before you get the greatest version in Alpharetta.
I know it's not fair to say this because Big Modern just doesn't have as long of a track record as a lot of other songs in the catalog, but at this point, I can't argue that any other song is a more consistent performer than Big Modern. It hits every time. It can never disappoint. This one, I thought the first section was very good, although it's a bit familiar. It was very close to something I've heard in a couple other Big Moderns. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just kind of like as just getting started. But as it keeps going and peaking more, it downshifts into this eerie, sparse lo-fi space that gradually closes in on some driving dark rock to close it down. Just phenomenal stuff. I mean, it was a steak cooked medium rare. It was just perfection.
Yeah, and that's, to your point, that's kind of why I say like it's kind of easy to be hasty and be like, this is the best one yet, because it is familiar, but it's like having the best steak you've ever had. Like, you know what it is, but like,
yeah,
it was flawless execution on the early part of the jam, and just once again, another great slow build. You're going to hear this all the time, I feel like, since Cotter joined the band, into an absolutely monstrous, glorious peak of like the best of what we've gotten out of Big Modern so far. And then, like, to your point, it breaks down at that lo-fi post-peak section that's just full like 70s psychedelic work. And Trevor is the star early on in this thing, and the band kind of knows it and leans into that for a minute or two, and Rick and Peter just like adding flair to that bass line, and then surely, as he kind of always does, I feel like, on the best jams, Rick takes the mantle and does like this gorgeous like double stop section for a little bit before the band finds a riff they all latch onto, and it's just that like monstrous takeoff into the stratosphere at light speed, second peak before moving into Wisteria Lane, which I just was like, we flew into that peak, right? After like a 10-minute like or 12-minute or whatever extended version or jam to get into a peak, it was like 2 minutes for this one. But it was great.
100%. And this Wisteria is also really great. It's another medium length Wisteria, which you'd always like to get like a really banger length one, but really solid. Kind of reminds me of the quality that we had with the Wisteria in the San Francisco run, where it was a similar length, but it packed a lot in. This one really just hits max intensity and stays there. Cotter sounds like he's absolutely punishing that kit. And Rick is truly on one, just freely and expertly weaving ideas together at a million miles an hour. What I put down in quotations was this one really blasts through the atmosphere is kind of the only way I can put it. It just explosive.
Yeah. Short but sweet, and a really, really great jam for such a short runtime. Like you said, I really want them to go into a second jam section like they did last summer, right? Was the last long Wisteria. Like, it's such a great jam vehicle. I understand Wisteria Echo is just a great 1-2 punch, but like in a lot of ways it is like the Masonic in San Francisco, where they both kind of got a little shortchanged for how great of jam vehicles they are, but no complaints to hearing great songs, right? It's just, we're selfish and we want 20-minute versions of each because they both lead to such bangers all the time, right?
Well, I mean, you're literally setting up for the song that comes next for me too, because I mean, Echo has been short for a while now. That's not news, but I mean, I am happy whenever it pops up because Echo's one of the best songs in the catalog. But especially when you've heard them play a 43-minute version of Echo, it's kind of hard to adjust to this new reality where Echo's one of the short ones. I don't know if I'm ever going to feel great about that, but happy to see the two of them paired together. To your point.
Yeah, it's still a great song. So it's like, it's hard to be like, oh, I don't want to hear that in the set because it's short.
No.
Like, it's still great to sing along to and vibe to. But yeah, I do want to see these two kind of get the run length they used to get at some point, because they're both just such terrific jam vehicles. And some of the best versions of any song have been these two tunes.
1,000%, yes. But what about this Electric Avenue? You got to give me your thoughts on this, because I know you have some.
Yeah. So for all the kind of the talk of the hype of the big modern to start the set, I feel like this section might be the more remembered section by a lot of fans who are at the show, because I think this Goons section and the Mist outro is just so electric. It's like a shot in the arm of straight energy, right? Like, and I think anyone who was there, I think that's going to be a big takeaway of like, oh my God, this is the most fun part of the show. I just love how many different avenues they're finding to inject Goons into a show. Like, they're finding unique ways to kind of like give everyone a little dose of the Goons, a little bit of the Goons. And they're clearly having a good time with it in 2025. So I know it's not going to stick around forever, or like maybe not be at every show like it is now, but I encourage people to just enjoy the ride while we have it, because I've seen people make comments about it either way, like, I want it forever, or I don't need it every show. Like, it's not going to be every show forever, but they're having fun with it right now, and it's a good time, so let's just enjoy it. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox here, and I think that this jam reminded me a little bit of like the early fast slow jams we saw, especially in that early build, and then you could kind of sense the momentum creeping towards a return to Mist. Like, they were definitely teasing it throughout, and that closing part into the Mist outro, like, is like, holy crap, goose. Like, just thinking about it, I'm like getting the chills. It's just because it's been so rare lately, I feel like, and it's such an electric outro that like it's hard pressed to find like a more high energy ramp into like, this is the greatest night of my life, let's go.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, first of all, to your earlier point, I want the Goons to stick around, because at the end of the day, and I'll sound like a broken record player, but what excites me the most is variety. So the more different styles of music that they have at their disposal is the better for me as a fan. For this Electric Avenue, I just wrote, yes, please, more of this. It starts off slowly before Cotter brings in the disco style beats, and then you're off and running into this funk electronic dance party hybrid, really hitting that Daft Punk, Corey Wong mixed with house music vibe. But it's also driving with like this industrial propulsion by the end. And then finishing with that missed outro intertwined with what they created out of that Electric Avenue jam is just as unique of a finish to anything that I've ever heard them do. It's just what a mind meld they had to be in as a band to kind of hit that and make all the different aspects work and feel natural. So yes, this is how I want sets to be closed. This is outstanding. It's just like 10 out of 10 finish.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was awesome. And I honestly, maybe because it's been so rare lately and I'm just the worst memory in the world, but like I can't remember feeling like there was a missed outro that was like this high energy that I can recall off the top of my head, because like the build was just so insane and the goons continued kind of through the missed outro in a way that was kind of unique and cool. I was really, really enjoying it. And I mean, that wasn't even the end of the set, right? Like it felt like it should be the end of the set, and then they went into one more song, right? So they went into "You Spin Me
With more
Around"
goons.
with more goons. So it was just an
Just
awesome
insane.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, and the Rockdale encore really, really goes for broke.
it does.
This is like the best end to a show that I can remember in a while. I mean, for me, maybe going back to my favorite shows in February, this is just like 10 out of 10 energy for like 5 songs in a row, basically.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty terrific. Hard to beat that level of energy, right? Like,
Yeah, and I'm sorry to smash it all together there. Like, did you have any like specific thoughts about You Spin Me Around or Rockdale? Because I was just kind of like, the end of this show is just like it just gets me excited, and I just start rambling.
no, I think you nailed it. I think that it was really a cool choice to put Rockdale in the encore, especially. They squeezed a little fun jam out of it in the short time slot they had, while also kind of getting the best of like the sing along vibes that we all love about Rockdale. So I really enjoyed that slotting, and I hope that that's something they decide to sprinkle in more, because it's been a while since we've seen a Rockdale encore.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well.
All right, anything else on Sterling Heights before we go to Chicago?
Sweet home Chicago, let's go.
I don't think that's how it goes. But
We're
yeah, the
ad
next
libbing here.
night, September 20th, at the Huntington Bank Pavilion at Northerly Island in Chicago, Illinois. We opened up set 1 with Eminence Front, into Drive, into Iguana Song, into Same Old Shenanigans, into Feel It Now. Holy transition city to start. And then Dr. Darkness, and then got the debut of Peach by Future Islands, and then got us So Ready into Dawn to close out set 1. And then set 2 opened with Hunger Sight into Don't Leave Me This Way. Then got Tumble, the Empress of Organos, and closed with Jedstone before coming back to the Empress of Organos in the encore. Another barn burner here. Let's start with set 1 here. Eminence Front to open. That's a throwback to some old school Goose right there. What a start, right?
Eminence front opener is choice. That's literally all I wrote about it, because it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrific. And then from there we go into a short drive, which like has become kind of a trend, and I want a long drive, but
I'm sad about it, man. I'm really sad about it. It's been a similar slotting a lot this year, so I'm not going to mourn the loss of any improv here too much. But I drive just like Echo, just like Wisteria. There's a few songs in the catalog that right now, and Echo and Wisteria for longer than Drive has been, so I probably can't complain about Drive as much. But there's a few songs in the catalog that are mainstays that the crowd adores, that are just, you know, really dear to all of us, that I think need to get off the bench and get back to some longer improv.
yeah, and I understand like taking turns with like what songs are the ones that go for a run for a while, but like, and I'm not saying I want this to happen, but it also never happens with some songs. Like Tumble is
Yeah.
always going to get some love. You know what I mean? Hunger Sight's always going to get some love, and I don't necessarily want that to change, but it's just tough when the catalog is this deep now and this good to like
True.
find a way to do it all right. And Yeah, it's just tough to see a short drive like this, but all once again, great song. Like you can't be that upset to
Yeah.
hear the main portion of it, right? Uh, Another terrific song, an Iguana song, another 12-ish minute version. I think that's unfortunately where it's going to live, despite you and I wanting it to be like a 30-minute banger too.
It keeps teasing a little bit more, like with the inkling that it may get stretched out. Everyone feels a little bit more like, this is no, it's not the one yet. But it feels like it more and more.
One day it might, and we're going to all lose our collective minds, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
it's going to be one guy in an iguana costume going ape shit in the crowd, you know?
And that guy will be me.
Probably. Interestingly enough, after that great iguana song, you got a same old shenanigans without Don. So it was like 3-4 minutes long. I don't have the runtimes pulled up right in front of me right now, but it was just the main portion of SOS going into a really, really fun version of Feel It Now. Like about as high energy as you can get from an already high energy song. And then my only qualm with the set listing here would be this Dr. Darkness. It just felt like out of place for me. It was just kind of like after that crazy burst of energy, it was just kind of like a weird mood shift. But I love Dr. Darkness, so I'm not going to disparage a song I like. But it felt odd in terms of listening back and being like, oh, this is just a wild mood shift.
Yeah, so the SOS being short there was kind of where the interesting set listing starts. Feel It Now just continues to glow post EMG release. Dr. Darkness, I agree with you to an extent. So following Feel It Now feels a little bit weird. Preceding Peach feels like it makes a little more sense to me. I don't
It
know
does.
if that's kind of like tracking. So like I agree with you on the slotting for what it comes after, but it did kind of work. Maybe not the maybe it wasn't the best bridge, but it did kind of serve as a bridge because I don't think it would have gone as well if they just went from that energy of Feel It Now into Peach, which was also a brand new cover that I'm guessing a lot of people in the audience haven't heard before. I think I tend to agree with you that they could have maybe transitioned with something else that's mid tempo that maybe fits the mood a little bit better coming out of Feel It Now. But like I also kind of understood the intent, at least generally speaking.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that. Like it does serve as a pretty nice pad for Peach to kind of get started on, right? Um, I don't know where you'd move in the set, so it just kind of like
Yeah.
had to happen. Like you don't want to get rid of an Eminence front opener. You don't want it to come right after something like
Yeah.
that. Like, it just it's kind of like tough. So
Sure.
I understand that. And let's speaking of Peach, dude, I'm a big fan of these indie covers. Like it fits well with their sound. I know we joked a lot on our songs that Goose should cover episode that they're built for 80s covers, but I think they're also built for like this indie pop sound in a lot of ways. And, they can kind of make it their own a little bit. This one stuck kind of true to the original version, but interestingly enough, like I listened to some Future Islands after hearing this cover, and they don't have like any guitar prominent in any of their songs, but Rick finds a way to just kind of like make a sick guitar part and do an outro solo on it and stay completely true to the original version of the song, not necessarily always making it their own. But when they do make it their own, they crush that too. So really enjoyed this one. I thought the outro section would have been so fun in person.
Yeah, I need a few more listens to get acclimated, but I initially dug it, and it kind of reminds me as well, like not to cover the same episode that you just mentioned, but I also suggested in that episode that they maybe should try like something like MGMT, which is like way more synth based. But when you're Rick Mataratanda, it doesn't seem to be that difficult to translate music from one instrument to another. So I agree completely. I think that if they have a niche at covering songs, it probably is both. It's 80s songs and modern indie music because they
Yeah.
kill all this stuff. And with the new edition of this and Amongster and everything else they've been No Rain in California, there's just they find ways to take something where you're like, no, that's not going to work with what they have musically, and then they're like, Rick's like, hey, watch this.
Yeah. Yeah, No California is another great example, like just a modern pop tune, right? And
Yeah.
absolutely crushed that too. And it's pretty true to the original, but it's Rickified. Like
Yep.
it matches voice.
Rickified
So
is a good term. Yeah.
love it. And then once again, the energy just kind of comes back. So that was kind of like a shot in the system of like, we're going to get some indie, and now we're going to go back to the Energy Fest. So ready into Dawn, man. Like, you get much more energy than that.
And so unexpected. Just the pairing there. I definitely wasn't expecting a Dawn set one closer when I was watching this live. And then when we did get Dawn, just because of the theme of Goose lately, I was expecting some Goons possibly, because Dawn can veer into electronic as well as any song in the catalog. But no, it's just going to be high energy, more straightforward approach. And so everything they're doing right now is just interesting and kind of changes my perspective or preconception as to what is going to come next, because they're just challenging that, it seems like.
Yeah, totally. And I'm loving these extended runtimes on Dawn, because Dawn is like already just like a great vibe. I've always said that SOS into Dawn is my favorite way to close set one. So like getting this to close out the set, not SOS Dawn, but So Ready Dawn, like that's just as cool. And yeah, it's quote unquote like type one, like it's standard Dawn fare, but who doesn't love that? Like it's just a dance party of pure joy.
Yeah, Blissy Rock Dance Party is what I had in parentheses here.
Yeah, doesn't always need to cover wild ground. I think if there's something that people might point to, it's like maybe the level of like wild improv isn't there with like what we saw in February, but the set listing and like the show flow is just like on point. Even when we're making like minor qualms or whatever, it's like nothing. It's just something to talk about more than it is like actually a real qualm.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we're kind of just ramping back up. The band is anyways. We're kind of just getting back in the flow of things, and already we're just like, oh, this is like February, which we already kind of hold in like the highest of high regards.
But yeah, that's a great way to close out set one, right? And this set two, there's nothing to talk about, so we'll just sign off.
Yeah, no, I don't think there would be fewer than 100 people trying to kill us if that was the case. So we're
Yeah.
gonna press on, I think.
So
yeah, get into it.
let's get into it, man. Like Hunger side opener, another. I feel like I say this too much, but like another unbeatable slotting move right there, right? Hunger site set two opener is just like some of the best feelings you can get at a show.
Yeah, for me, if they're playing Hunger Site, I almost like always want it in the first two slots for set two. Like that's just Hunger Site's home for me. It's either like there or skip it for the next night.
Yep.
It just starts off strong, pretty straightforward approach for me. I've seen this before or I've heard this before in previous Hungers, and even some Echoes as well, where they kind of do that back and forth chord progression, and it just gradually ramps up into more rock chaos, but no less fun by any means. But man, we got to talk about this Don't Leave Me This Way, because I think that was like something people were like waiting for.
Song always slaps, dude. Yeah, I talk about it all the time. It's the best cover from Goosemas, as much as you always give me shit for that. It's just such a banger, dude. Real quick on Hunger Site, I got like two quick notes. It's just like I think another quote unquote nice full band jam on this one. I really liked the unison riff at the end there. That was a kind of a really cool peak and a cool transition into Don't Leave Me This Way. And there's not much to be said about Don't Leave Me This Way other than like it is arguably the best all around like get the crowd going dance vibes that they have right now. I it's hard to beat it, right?
I don't think that they have anything in the catalog, originals or covers, that blows the roof off of a building the way that cover does. And it may not be like my personal favorite cover from Goosemas, but even I could just watch the reaction happening in real time, watching on Nugs at home. And just, it's undeniable. The results speak for themselves. The explosion that happens when they hit the first chorus in that cover, I instantly get happier seeing how happy everyone else is about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so well said, man. Like there are moments where you can maybe match that energy, but like Don't Leave Me This Way is just like a consistent like, oh, we're gonna hit the chorus and everyone's gonna lose their shit. There's gonna be people like flailing around everywhere in
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah. I mean, it's pandemonium when that chorus hits, and even when they've done versions where they like slow it down for a bit and then cycle back to the chorus. I mean, there's just a release that's happening there that I don't even think science has a way to explain quite yet.
No, it's an enigma of our Earth.
Yeah, for sure. Well said.
Oh, brother. Yeah, it's a great time. I would love to hear that even more often than I do. I mean, I've caught
Yeah.
it a couple times. It's great, but like, it is nice that it's sprinkled in like as a treat for people. People who go to a lot of shows and they catch it every once in a while, but like, it's just such a treat. I think the treatment they're giving it, playing it at big venues where maybe they're pulling in people who aren't necessarily super familiar with the catalog. Like, I think it's a great choice for a cover to like get people super into Goose.
That's a really good point as well, because it is at a venue where you probably are taking in some more casuals, and like you may be like, yeah, I know this song. You don't know it like this. So I think that's
Yeah.
a really good call on your part, Alex.
Oh, but let's get into the real highlight of the show, in my opinion. Oh my
Crown Jewel.
goodness. Tumble, dude. Apparently 2024 was not just the only year of Tumble. It's gonna be the decade of Tumble at this point, right? Because
Yeah.
for this iteration of Goose, like since Cotter joined, it has to be the one song, in my opinion, that's shown like the most range of where you never know what type of jam you're gonna get, but it's always gonna be excellent, right? You talked about that with
Um,
Big Modern too. I feel like Tumble is like the other one, and I was waiting to say that till now, but like it's just like always a banger.
well, I know that you were really partial to this one and probably have a lot more notes than me. I don't have as many, but I did want to call out that, to your point that you're making right now, this is perfect because this is what I wrote. Tumble comes back with an entirely different approach from the Sandwich and Goonsfeel in Burlington, literally just a few nights previous, kind of talking to that diversity that you were just mentioning of approaches that go with this song. And it goes into this long, patient jam that is wonderfully blissed out, and it goes into some funky, discordant territory at the end. So I just think that you're completely right when you say that there's a variety of approaches that can go on with Tumble, and we saw two different ones within a week span here.
Yeah, I think that once again, my friend, really well said. It's one of those things where do I think it's the jam of the year? Not necessarily. I still think that that goes to some of the stuff we heard in February at this point for me. But when they get into the zone of hitting like the best of their bliss work, and then Rick kind of gets in a zone where he's playing like this gorgeous melodic blissy guitar that builds to like just an explosive peak like it did on this Tumble, especially in the early section, like people latch onto that and that becomes like very popular in this fan base. And I think that this bliss peak could go toe to toe with some of the best ones that this band has done since Cotter joined. So that's just where a lot of the excitement comes from, because it's just a beautiful, some of the best melody you'll ever hear in a jam, in my opinion. And then yeah, you get a little quick devolving dark section full of tribal toms from Cotter at the end there to just kind of like, hey, let's just make this jam even better. Hitting this cool 3-shot riff that eventually leads way back into the Tumble outro somehow. And yeah, right from the jump, you hear a special jam and it ends on a special note. I just think that it's a great ride, and I think it'll be high on my list by the end of the year, but we'll see where it lands with the fan base, because I do think it is some of the most special bliss we've heard in 2025, at least. Up there with that Animal from Milwaukee is the only other one that really comes to mind.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point, and I mean I was a little bit surprised even last year with how well some of the Bliss jams did. I expected Philly Tumble to do really well, but I didn't necessarily expect it to win. And then even Into the Mist from the Cap, I was very partial to myself, but I didn't expect it to be a Final Four, candidate. But people really love the Bliss when it's really well done and expertly crafted, and I think this definitely falls into that category. So it definitely won't shock me if it's in like, the final four or final eight jams, when we come to the end of bracket time.
Yeah, or maybe the best is still yet to come, right? Like it's hard to say at this point with this tour still so young. They're on a
The
roll
form
right
that
now.
they've had, yeah, I agree. The form that they've been on this early into fall and winter, you very well could be right. The best is probably yet to come.
The only other thing on the tumble I wanted to shout out was it did harken back a little bit to February, since we've been talking about that quite a bit tonight since we started recording. And they brought back the waves from Grand Rapid, dude. Like the waves little thing in the background during the early kind of more ambient space was like really nice to hear again. And the band was in no rush to kind of get to that amazing peak, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, it sometimes seems like they're not really like ever like intending to land into those like really gentle starting points that are going to facilitate a really, patient blissed out jam. But it seems like more often than not, when these things pop up, they almost wind up there accidentally, and then it just kind of like the inspiration strikes. Like, let's do something like a feathery touch here, or some waves here, or whatever, and they just give it a little bit of that extra sauce, extra magic.
It's a superpower, man. Like that
Yeah.
stuff, especially Peter. Shout out to you, Peter. You're a sound wizard. Like how to find the perfect sound at any given moment.
Yeah. He's the chief of ambiance. Yeah.
Uh, the set's not over here, right? Tumble was mid set, so we got an Empress into Jedstone to close out set two. It was originally supposed to be a full Empress sandwich in the set, but I kind of like how it wound up turning out. You get Empress into Jed, close out an emotional beat, and they leave a droning sound throughout the encore break and come back and go straight into like a goon's banger in the encore. But I want to hear you talk about your feelings on the Empress Jed before we get into that crazy encore.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it all as one because it reminds me of the very similar thing that they did at El Gonzo, where they left the drone as they walked off stage and then come back on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really cool move, just generally speaking. The Empress is like bringing the energy kind of back up from that really gorgeous Blissy tumble. It's a shortened version, but it makes way for, the cool down of Jedstone, but also just like always good to have that amazing, beautiful, emotional release at the end of the show. But yeah, I thought it was a nice touch to take that cool down and then kind of link it to the fury that was about to follow with the Empress and the encore, with that droning sound. It kind of just tied things with a bow, made everything cohesive.
Totally agree. I mean, Jetstone, people are like, oh, it's too slow to be closing the set or whatever, but like it builds to such like a crazy emotional peak by the end of it. I think it works pretty well in that slot. It's not, there's definitely worse options for people who say it's too slow.
Yes.
So I thought it really worked well, especially in this context where they knew they were in a little bit of a time crunch after throwing out a few banger jams early in the set.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. And then the Goonts core, they just come right out from the encore break and just go right into that Goonts jam. That was so sick. There must have been at least like 30 vampire casualties with Blade in town.
Well, that's a really good call out. I didn't have that in my notes, but you're absolutely spot on there, because a lot of the best goons, especially some of the goons that I can remember with like past Empresses, there is like a build up, and here they're just like, no, jump right into the middle of the hurricane. And that part was unique, and that it's definitely cool to see that they don't even really need time to like warm up or escalate. They could just dive right into the eye of the storm.
No, it's just like Cotter just played like a quick like drum lick, and then it's like, let's just fucking rage.
Yeah, amazing. Really, really cool shit.
It's incredible. I think that's honestly, for me, I think that's the best place to throw in the Goons is in the encore right now, because it's just such a high to end a show, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think this was the best example of like a great Goons encore for me. Just
Yeah.
absolutely terrific. And then of course going back into the sing along of Empress is always fantastic. So I just thought it was really, really great adjusting their set list plan.
Well, and that's the other thing to call out too. We've been talking all night specifically about set listing, creativity, and flow. Uh, what's so incredible to me is that a lot of this amazing flow is achieved at least by some percentage of accidental, because when you look at their pre-planned shows, they've usually got a lot more planned than they end up getting to, but
Oh
somehow
yeah.
they're able to adjust in real time, and even with dropping certain songs, they still find the perfect combo and order of these things to make it just a cohesive, fully formed and realized chef's kiss of a show.
Yeah, you said it. I've been looking at the set list for the last few shows and it's like, oh my gosh, they've like missed like 6 songs on each of these.
Yeah.
And like spoiler alert, like Bob Don was on one of these set lists and didn't come back till Louisville.
Yeah.
They've been trying to squeeze in these songs that have not gotten as much love given the more tight rotation right after the album, and they're trying to bring a lot of them back, but it's just hard when you're in the zone, man.
Yeah, I mean, we've got all this great improv going on, and they're squeezing in these massive set ones crammed with songs. They're doing a great service for us, but it's impossible to do it all.
Yeah, exactly. It's like biting off more than you can chew, and they're just trying to do their best for us, which
Yep.
I can greatly appreciate.
And hey, Goose, you're doing it. No
Yeah,
notes. A plus.
no
You're
notes. You're
killing
doing it.
it.
Any nitpicks are literally just us trying to find something to talk about. Like, it's been
Exactly, because we're
fantastic.
wearing the same shirt over here from Goosemas. So I mean, we got to like work and dig to find some differences here, or something that's controversial mildly.
I know. Honestly, that's probably our number one feedback is like, you guys agree on too much shit. Let's get in more fights.
Yeah. Well, tell Goose to not play as good. Don't tell them that because they're killing it right now. But I mean, when the shows are this good, I mean, it's so easy to just start waxing poetic endlessly because we're just genuinely this happy with how well they're playing.
Oh yeah. So we're shout out to the audience real quick. We're recording this on Thursday, just before the Alpharetta show. Mike's going to be going there on Friday and then up to Charlotte on Saturday. Really, really excited to talk about this next leg of shows because I went to the Louisville shows just before. I'm literally running on like 3 hours of sleep right now. So sorry
You
if I'm
did great.
delirious, but it's a really exciting tour. I'm already pumped about these next two shows we're talking about, and I know this weekend's going to be even more incredible. We're going to try to get this released as soon as we can so y'all can have it before Alpharetta. And really, really hope that you've enjoyed this recap. Mike, you got anything else, buddy?
No, if we do get it out before the shows, feel free if you see me to wave me down. I should have stickers on hand, so definitely would love to meet you. Say hi, what's up, and yeah, hopefully by the end of this weekend we'll be recording the 4 shows that we were at in combination this week. So can't wait to get into that as well.
Yeah, we'll get all caught up after the Charlotte show, buddy. I know life is crazy for us doing this for fun on the side, but
Sure.
we're gonna get caught up here. And I know y'all have been asking for some recaps. And you've been excited about these shows so far. So hope you enjoyed this one. Be sure to follow us at SlowReadyPod on all the socials. Send us an email, slowreadypod@gmail.com. Give us shit for our bad takes. Give us show ideas, whatever you want. It's always fun to get emails. Tell us what we got wrong. It's always great to get feedback. So we appreciate y'all listening. I hope you've managed to make it this long. And if you're going to the shows this weekend, be safe and have a good time.
Thanks, y'all.